Okay, we're ready to start our next session. And the theme of this session is governance and leadership of family businesses. And speaking on the subject is Meher Pudumjee, who is the chairperson of a company called Thermax. This is a company that is in the industrial systems space. They produce products with high engineering component for companies, and they also now operate internationally in a number of different countries. Meher has been the chairperson for the last 25 years, if I remember, 21 years, if I remember correctly. And Meher was very much looking forward to participating in this event in person. Unfortunately, because of her prior commitment to be in Latin America at this time, as we are speaking, she's probably on a plane flying to somewhere in Latin America. And so what we decided to do was she and I had a conversation a few days back on this topic. So we're going to hear Meher through the video, and afterwards, Farhad Forbes, who is familiar with the company and knows Meher personally, has agreed to come and comment on what Meher says in the video. And is also going to be open then for some discussion with us about the Thermax case, which he's familiar with. But of course, he's going to be careful not to speak on Meher's behalf. Obviously, he can't do that. So I want to thank Farhad for being a good sport and helping us dig a little deeper into this case study. So Meher is an engineer by training. The company was started by her grandfather, and who was not an engineer. And the next generation, of course, was her father, who was also not an engineer, which I was very surprised to hear because the company is all about engineers and engineering. And she, however, did get an engineering degree from Imperial College in London and has been running the company, as I said, for the last 21 years. So let's hear from Meher. Can you roll the tape?
Armed with a master's in chemical engineering from Imperial College, UK, Meher Pudumjee came back to India to an unexpected offer.
My father said, would you like to start at Thermax? And I said, why not? I got married in between. Then my parents thought that it would be a great idea for both my husband and me to go overseas. This was one of our subsidiaries. So we came up with some really amazing applications.
Then tragedy struck the family.
My father suddenly passed away. My mom had to take over. I had to join the board. We brought in a consultant to come in. So we took many decisions to get back to our core, which was energy, environment, and chemicals. And then Anu decided to step down, made me chairperson. So we went into selective internationalization. And that's when the whole sustainable solutions in energy and environment came about. And over time, all our investments now have been into more sustainable businesses. It's things like that that give a lot of us a kick.
Well, it's under her leadership that Thermax has become greener. We have grown faster.
Today, with 5,225 employees and a revenue of 9,323 crore rupees, Meher Pudumjee is set to guide Thermax into an even brighter future.
There is so much opportunity. How do we think of sustainability in everything that we do? We are here for the long run.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Meher Pudumjee.
Welcome. So glad you can join us virtually. I'm so
Thank
sorry
you.
you're not able to come in person because of a scheduling conflict, but I hope we'll do that some other time.
Thank you, Ravi. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. I want to start with a little bit of your background. We saw in the video when you got the award. Congratulations, by the way. That's a wonderful award you got last year. And we saw in the video a bit of background about the company. I want to start with your grandfather who started the company. And if I'm not mistaken, he started the company, I think, very close to the time when you were born.
That's right.
So the company's age and your age are equal. So in many ways,
Practically, yes.
you've grown together.
Yeah.
And so tell me, what led him to start the company?
So my grandfather is my maternal grandfather. So
Mm,
this is my mother's father who started the business. And he actually started out manufacturing sterilizers for the hospital industry. And then sterilizers went on to a collaboration with a Belgian company called Wonson to
mm,
manufacture boilers. And that's how they started a new
uh,
company called Wonson India Private Limited. And this was to manufacture small baby boilers in Bombay. And this was in 1966. And it was then that my father, who was a professional and a very close friend of my uncle, that's my grandfather's son, who went up to him and said that you're a professional, you've just come back from the UK, you're working, why don't you come and join our startup, which was once in India at that
mm,
time. And my father thought about it and decided to leave his very lucrative the business that he had joined,
mhm,
and which was Burma Shell, and then come and join Wonson. And it's after that that he really got to know my mother, and then they got
mm.
married, and he became the son-in-law in the business.
Okay, very interesting. My guess is completely wrong. I thought he married into the family, then got into the business.
No,
But
no, no.
that's very interesting. So when he took over, one of the things I saw about his background, which I thought was very interesting, he got an MBA from Harvard Business School,
Hmm.
correct? And
That's it's not an
I,
MBA.
huh.
He did his PMD at that time,
Okay, all right,
which
got
was
it.
a 3 month scholarship that he got
Okay.
from IIM Ahmedabad to go to Harvard.
Oh, okay. Because I myself went to IIM Ahmedabad, and I was also at
Okay.
Harvard in the 70s, and this must have been in the 70s that he came,
This was in the 60s,
or in the 60s.
in the late
So,
60s. Yes,
okay. All right.
yes.
So really way ahead of his time.
Mhm.
So, um, what does Thermax do for those who don't know what it does? Can you just walk us through that?
Sure, sure. So Thermax is an energy and environment company. We started off with boilers, as I mentioned,
Mhm,
and boilers require water, and so good clean water. So that's how we went into water treatment.
mhm,
Then water treatment requires something called ion exchange resins. So that's
mhm,
how we went into the chemical business.
mhm,
Boilers emit pollution. And at that time, the Pollution Act had just come into India. And we also said if we are polluting, we had better clean up. And
mhm,
so that's how we started the Air Pollution Control Division. And boilers also give out waste heat. And so we had an opportunity to collaborate with a Japanese company that had a very interesting technology that converted heat into cooling. And so that's how we got into our cooling business. And then if you put all this together and you buy a steam turbine, you get power. So that's how we got into the power business and the EPC business. So that's the erstwhile Thermax, which is in energy, environment, and chemicals. And of late, in the last 5 or 6 years, and maybe a little beyond that, we have diversified and gone into solar and wind, where we put up solar and wind power plants. This is mainly for industry, not for utilities. We've also gone into green hydrogen. So we're starting that in a small way. We've gone into bio CNG, which is an upcoming area for India with regard to its energy security. So like that, we've slowly diversified into areas that are cleaner, greener, and more sustainable. So we like to think that we are a company that helps our customers in their energy transition.
Do you remember anything about your father's management style?
Yes, first of all, my father was a great visionary. Um, he he is the one who really thought about expanding Thermax. Um, he is the kind of person. First of all, let me talk about him as a person. He is was not an engineer. My grandfather was not an engineer, and yet both of them built a very strong engineering company. And I think you can only do that if you bring really good people around you, surround yourself with good people, and then empower them. Give them freedom to operate, give them responsibility, give them respect, allow them to make mistakes. But my grandfather would say, don't make the same mistake twice. Another thing about my father that really is unique and different is he believed in creating an institution. He truly believed in stakeholder value, even at that time. Whether it was our employees, our customers, our vendors, our channel partners, the environment, community, all these, other than the shareholder, because my father had just taken the company public in 1995, and then in 1996, he passed away. Yeah. So, and he believed genuinely, and his words ring a bell through all of us today, which is profit is not just a set of figures, but of values.
So he was clearly a very central figure in the running of the company. And to lose him abruptly, as you did in 1996, that must have been a terrible tragedy for the family. How did you deal
Absolutely.
with it?
It was, of course, a tragedy for the family, and it was very sudden. And so my mother had to suddenly, overnight, take over. My mother is a social worker by training, and my father had a heart attack previously in 1982, and that was his first heart attack. And at
Okay.
that time, my mother was a social worker, and people said that I think you need to spend a little more time in the company and get to know the organization because you're very vulnerable in a family business. And so she wondered where would she really fit in, and HR was the right place for her to have fitted in. And so she joined the organization and worked under a professional for a few years. And when he left, she took over HR. And Thermax was and is known for its HR practices. And so when my father suddenly passed away in 1996, my mother had to suddenly take over overnight. And remember, at that time, we had one more stakeholder, which is the shareholder, the minority shareholder. So it
Oh.
was really, really tough. And and we had all these diversified businesses that my father had started. And and so I think I think she really didn't enjoy the first few years of her being in the saddle. And by 1999, 2000, the company actually made a loss for the first time in the history of the company. And it's at that time that mom got an anonymous letter from a shareholder to say that, Mrs. Aga, you may not require the money, but I am a small investor in your company and I've put my hard earned money and you have let me down. And to the family, letting me down are three words that just anathema. And so that's when my mom felt that we're probably out of depth and we need help. And that's when she brought in a consulting firm who really helped us turn around the organization. And Ravi, in between, in 1997, which is a year after my father passed away, we lost my brother in a car accident. So I think it's just been very, very rough on the family, and of course, my mom in particular, and of course, rough on the company as well. But she's one solid woman, and never say die. And so she wanted to turn around the company, and and that's what she did.
So was your brother involved in the running of the company too?
So my brother was had just come back from Venezuela
Okay.
uh, a year before. Sorry, not even, yeah, a year before, correct. And he came in on the 1st of February 1996, and my father passed away 15 days later.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so he had just joined the company and was in the service field. And in
Mm,
fact, he was in Bangalore trying to retrieve an order that we were about to lose. And
mm.
on his way back, he died in a car accident. Yeah. So, yeah,
Oh my gosh. That's such a
it was
blow to the
very hard.
family.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, it's that point that you, I think, decided the family would be mainly engaged with the board and not with the running of the company and the operations on a day-to-day basis. Is that correct?
That's right. Shall I go a little back into
Yeah.
my history, into the way
Yes.
I so when I finished my chemical engineering in the
Mm,
UK, I decided to come back to India,
mm,
and my father said, "Would you like to join the business?" And when I agreed, I had to join as a trainee engineer, like anybody else joining the business. And so I joined as a trainee and went through a proper induction program, which
mm,
at that time was a year long, and then
mm,
got placed in Bombay in
mm,
sales, in a particular division of ours. And then in 1992, my parents thought it would be a great idea for both my husband and me. We got married in 91,
mm,
and they thought it would be great for Feroz and me to go to the UK and
mm,
turn around one of our ailing businesses there.
mm,
And so we were sent there with one of our directors who readily agreed to come and be a mentor to us for 1 year,
mm,
and
mm,
another engineer of ours.
mm,
And so we went there and actually helped turn around that business over a 4 year period. Would
mm,
have stayed on longer,
mm,
but in 96, when my father passed away, we returned to India and wanted
mm,
to help my mother. And that's
mm,
when I came onto the board of the company, and Feroz came onto the board a year later. I joined finance
mm,
because I just felt that I need to know a little bit about finance.
mm, mm,
Being an engineer, very often you really do not know
mm,
much about
mm,
finance, and then I oversaw two of our businesses.
mm,
And then, of course, in 2004, when my mother decided to retire
mm,
at the age of 61, I was made
mm,
chairperson of the company.
mm,
And and that's and when we when the consulting company came in and helped us turn around, one of the things that they mentioned was it's really important to separate ownership from management.
mm,
So until then, we had all been executives in the company,
mm,
running businesses,
mm,
actually taking many executive decisions.
mm, mm,
And they felt that, when the going is good, it's fine. But when things are tough,
mm,
then wearing two hats in a
mm,
boardroom, which is an executive as well as
mm,
an executive director,
mm,
and evaluating your own performance
mm,
becomes tough.
mm,
And you tend to be a little lenient on yourself or your peers.
mm,
And so they felt it might be a good idea for us to separate the two.
mm,
And that's
mm.
when Feroz and Anu had then retired, and that's when Feroz and I decided to become non executives. Not an easy decision at all.
Mm.
Uh, and we
Mm.
were very upset that we had to take this decision. But I think many years later, if I look back, I think it's one of the best decisions that we've made.
Well, and you still continue with that same arrangement even today, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
I'm just curious, just going back a little bit, when you said you went to Imperial College to study engineering, were you thinking of the company when you picked engineering? as your field, or were you?
Not really, Ravi. No, no.
Yeah.
In those days, I mean, you would you would vibe with me in terms of
Yeah.
we only had engineering, doctor, auditor, uh,
Civil service.
auditing, or yeah, or lawyer probably,
Okay.
or civil
Yeah.
servants. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And so I think the reason why I took science to begin with was because of a teacher of mine who really inspired me at school, which is why I took science, and then immediately went on to engineering because of that. And yeah, but it was not really because of the company. No, no, my father was
Ah,
not an engineer. My
right.
grandfathers were not engineers. So in that sense, no, with no particular intention.
Okay. You know, Gaurav Dalmia, who's, speaking at the same summit,
Hmm.
has noted that even when family is not involved in the day-to-day operations and they're serving on the board, they still need to be trained to be effective board members.
Hmm.
What's your thoughts on that?
I yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know how to be I don't know how one can be an effective board member except through real experience. And with Firoz and me, unfortunately, I think circumstances led us to move from one thing to another.
Mm,
And so, as I mentioned, I went to the UK. I started as a trainee, went to the UK, and came directly onto the board when I came back to India when my
mm,
father passed away. So I had no
mm,
training to be a board
mm,
member.
mm,
Neither did Firoz.
mm,
Um, but I think just being an executive in the organization, having run a small company in the UK when Firoz and I were there, turning it around, taking certain decisions, at least I think going through some grind and
mm,
an executive position where you have accountability, responsibility, you have targets to meet, uh, I think makes you understand somebody else's point of view that much better, especially in a non-executive position.
mm,
What an executive goes through, and therefore how demanding can you be, how
mm,
empathetic do you need to be, sort of
mhm,
matching the two.
mhm,
And so I think we didn't go through any other than just our experience. But with my children, both Zahan and Leah have both decided to join Thermax. Again, they are fourth generation non-engineers,
mm, mm,
but they have decided to come into the company, which we're very fortunate and very lucky about. And luckily, they have the kind of values, um, the family values that they've picked up. And so I have every confidence that over time, when they come onto the board, uh,
mhm,
they will be, they will learn to ask the right questions. Today, they're
mhm.
both executives in the organization,
Oh,
going through the grind that we did.
okay.
Um, but the difference is that they are invited to every board meeting. They are
Mm,
invited to every board committee meeting. So
mm,
they see the kind of questions that our independent directors ask,
mm.
the kind of decisions that have to be taken. I mean, we're talking about Thermax morning, noon, and night at the dinner table on weekends. The whole family is in
Yes,
the company,
right.
so
Yeah,
in some ways it gets quite a lot. But
yeah,
it's so strange, Ravi, that it's my children, in fact, who want to talk about it more than we do.
I see.
So it's
Interesting.
lovely.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, that's great. I want to go back to the video for just a moment. When they gave you the award, I think they described you as a trailblazer in India's green energy transformation, and you certainly talked about it as well. So there are two things that you mentioned in the video I want to just spend a moment on. The first thing is you said we are in for the long run, or we think long term, or something to that effect.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
assume that has something to do with the fact that you're a family-owned company and assume you have a controlling block. And so you actually can bring your values into the company. So I want you to comment on that, and then I want to get into the sustainability piece of it in more
Sure,
detail.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we do have a controlling stake. The family holds 62%. And I mean, I think it's a balance between the short term and the long term, Ravi.
Mm,
I can't say we think long term for every decision. No, of course not. But but like say for example, share price. Okay, we are a listed company. Now, I don't look at the share price on a day-to-day basis, on a monthly, on a
mm,
quarterly basis.
mm,
Uh, I feel, I genuinely feel that the share price is an outcome of
mm,
what we do.
mm,
And so I often tell people that, focus on getting our quality right, focus
mm,
on getting customer satisfaction, focus
mm,
on the right things, and the
mm,
share price will be an outcome.
mm,
And I compare it to a game of tennis,
mm,
saying that, if you're playing a game of tennis and you constantly look at the scoreboard,
mm,
you're bound to miss a shot.
mm,
But if you concentrate on your game,
mm,
then the scoreboard will reflect the game that you're
mm,
playing, and
mm,
so the share price
mm,
reflects what you do. And
mm,
so I think it's for the long term.
mm,
We got into a business 15 18 years ago. Instead of selling a boiler, we decided to sell steam as a
mm,
service.
mm, mm,
And I remember at the time people said that why, so it's a build, own, operate business. And I remember at the time people said, management said, can we do all sorts of boilers, coal
mm,
fired, oil fired, and everything? And we'll be able to enhance our top line and increase our bottom line. And I don't know, there's something in me said, no, let's stick to green.
mm,
Let's stick to biomass.
mm,
Um, and uh, and yes, we did lose top line. Yes, we did lose some bottom line over time. But I think sometimes you have to listen to that inner voice that tells you, in the still of the night, saying that, do what you think, what you feel is right,
mm.
even if it means you're losing some top line and some bottom line. It's for the long run. And so that's when we're thinking about really long term versus short term.
But you've now been chairperson for 21 years, and in this period, the company has done very well over that period, correct?
Hmm. It's done well. It's done well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
so there's really has not been a trade-off in the sense. In the long
so
run, you.
absolutely. But I mean, but the build on operate business is one part of our
Yeah,
business. Yeah. So
yeah,
we still sell
yeah,
boilers, but we
yeah.
also sell the build on operate part of it.
Mm, mm,
So, and the company has gone through ups and downs.
mm,
But I think on the whole, it's sort of
mm,
increased in the long
mm,
run. Yeah.
mm,
So that's also something. I mean, we're not looking at it quarterly to quarterly. Of course, we have to look a little bit at the quarterly results
mm,
because we have to
mm,
publish it as a publicly listed company. But if one quarter is down, one quarter is up, it doesn't matter. As
mm,
long as we think we're doing the right thing for our
mm,
customers and for our
mm,
stakeholders, we will continue with it.
mm, mm. Now, tell us a bit more about the commitment to sustainability because it seems to have become a very central part of what you're trying to do now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot. Ravi, we have a basket of products today.
Mm,
So it's not like we stopped selling coal or oil
mm,
fired boilers. We still sell those. But
mm,
we're trying to help our customers move through this energy transition. Yeah, so we're trying to make them see, um, it's better for you to move to a biomass, or it's better for you to move to an electric boiler, or it's better for you to look at renewable energy rather than
mm,
um, coal-fired power plant producing energy. So we're trying to bring in that shift in mindset to our customers. But let's face it, customers will make the shift on economics, number one, and if their customers push them into thinking, into thinking green. And so many of our customers who are exporting to Europe and America, well, maybe not America now, but Europe, are being pushed to think green and pushed to act green. And so the shift is happening pretty rapidly in a country like India. And the government in India is very committed to moving towards green and sustainability. So we have our water division, for example, looks at how do we reduce the usage of water in a process. Not just how do we recycle water or ZLD, which is zero liquid discharge, but how do we actually reduce the usage of water in a process? Or our cooling division has looked at, I'll give you a lovely example, at potato chip frying. So when you fry potato chips, potatoes have a lot of water in them. They give off water vapor, but they also give off VOCs, volatile organic compounds, right? And there's a lot of heat that normally just goes away in the chimney. So our people found an application where they could actually use this heat to produce cooling through our vapor absorption chillers. So the chilling is practically free, and also use the water vapor that's actually given out to help to condense it and use it to clean the potatoes instead of using fresh water each time. So it's constantly thinking of new applications. How do we use waste to some other form of energy? Or how do we enhance efficiency? Or how do we reduce the use of water? We're constantly thinking about that. And that makes us more and more sustainable for makes our customers more and more sustainable. And therefore, our tagline is conserving resources, preserving the future. And that's what we all are working towards.
Wonderful. I can't not ask you what it means to be a woman chairperson of a company.
No different from a man, to be honest, Ravi. I think, honestly, I think it's an advantage, if anything, because there are such few people. It's almost like people want to hear your voice. People want to know your thoughts. So to me, if anything, it's an advantage. Of course, when I was younger and I took over at the age of 37, it wasn't as easy because people were much older than me. And being a woman at that young age, it wasn't easy. But I think over time, it's only been positive. I really can't see. In fact, if anything, when I was in the UK and I was selling our boilers, and customers who would call, would say, I'd like to speak to the salesman. And I'd say, I'm the salesman speaking. And they really meant I want to speak to a man, because engineering products in those days, in the 90s, wasn't really sold by women. So, but other than that, nothing.
It's ironic. I was seeing that EY video clip. Before I clicked on the button said something like, click here to see this man's video, or this something. There was it was not
really?
gender neutral. Yeah. It was,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
It's a very patriarchal world. Still.
So how do you function in that? Does it get to you at some points, or you just learn to live with it?
I'm very lucky to have my husband, Ravi, who is really my partner in crime. And I think just we complement each other so much in the business, and I think in areas where I find it a little tough, maybe not being a woman so much, but sometimes being the boss of the MD and CEO, he comes in and sort of helps the situation.
Okay.
So I found that between the two of us, it's a great partnership. In the
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's turn now briefly to your succession plans. I know that you mentioned that your daughter is in the getting involved in the company. How about your son? Is he too?
Both are involved in the
Both are
company.
involved. Okay.
Both are involved. Yeah, my son
Okay.
is older,
Okay.
and he's been in the company for probably 7 years, and Leah's been in the
Okay.
company for 3 years.
Okay. And they both spent time working in the bowels of the organization as well, or not?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. They're
Absolutely.
both executives. They've both got targets. They both lead various projects, and they both report into. At the moment, Zahan is the EA to our MD and CEO.
Oh, okay.
That for the last 1 year,
Okay.
and so in some ways he gets to see the breadth of the organization.
Mm,
He's leading various projects in the MD's office.
okay.
Uh, and Leah at the moment has just moved to Singapore
Mm,
and is at business development, and reporting into the head of our international operations in Southeast Asia.
okay. And I believe that Leah's fiance has a connection to Northeastern.
That's right. He did his undergraduation at Northeastern, and is a lovely kid, or young man, I must say. And yeah, and I think he's very proud. He's a very proud alum of Northeastern. Yes,
We need to connect with him as well. And I hope we can do that in one of the future trips, either when we are there or he may happen to come this way.
absolutely, absolutely.
Man, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you
Thank you.
for sharing so candidly your views on many topics. And I do hope we'll have the pleasure of hosting you in person in Boston on campus one of these days.
Thank you, Ravi. I would love to do that one day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bharat, would you take the floor and maybe share with us any comments you have, and then we'll open up for any questions that Farhad can either choose to answer or ignore. You want to move to the... Okay. Yeah.
So this is a little awkward because, firstly, I can't really speak. I can speak on behalf, I think, but I can't speak as, right? So please keep that in mind. But let me just give you a little background. I know Mayor very well. I mean, they are very close family friends. We live about a mile apart from each other. And I think we met when we're in town, when we're both in town, which is sometimes the challenge, with Mayor and her husband Firoz, and my brother Naushad, and my wife Rati. I would say, meet practically once a month, usually. There are maybe three or four things which I think maybe come across in the video, which perhaps you've observed, and I'd just like to mention them because that's what I know of Mayor and what I know of the family, and I also know about the company that it stands for. And I must tell you also that we as a firm, Forbes Marshall, we work very closely with Thermax. They are customers of ours, but we also compete with Thermax on some of the product lines. So we have this very good relationship that we are friends, and when we are meeting as friends, we don't talk about business. Yeah? But we learn from each other, and we learn about things nevertheless. about how you apply certain concepts in your businesses, etc. Yeah? So there are four things which I think stand out when I think of Thermax and the family. One is governance, in terms of, and we talked about that in the opening session today. I think Thermax and the family are sort of exemplars of good corporate governance. Good corporate governance as a family firm. There was that reference which Mayor made to a letter which her mother received from an investor. And I think they truly believe that they have a responsibility to every minority shareholder. Okay, so that's number one. The second that comes across is choices. The choices that you can make as a family member for your business, irrespective of whether it's a listed business or not. And she talks about two things. One is, well, actually, she spoke about one thing, but I'll mention the second as well, is environmental choices. So, in a business where you actually proliferate the use of fossil fuel, they made some choices to move away from that. Not entirely, but to actually move things in that direction. And I think that's something which we can afford to do in family businesses. And as a family member, irrespective of whether you're the chair of the company or whether you're involved in some other way on the board, or maybe just as a family shareholder, you can influence what the family business does. And I've seen this not just at Thermax, but I've seen this elsewhere in many of our FBN companies across the world as well. So that was one choice which I think they've made. And the second, which was not mentioned, but is also about the ethics of how to do business. And I think that's something which the family stands for, and they ensure that they will always be seen as being ethical in how they deal with all aspects of their business, which comes from Roington's, that means Mayor's father's, statement that profit is not just a set of figures, but it's a set of values, really. Third is the humility to learn. That's one thing which I've also seen very much, which is evident there, and it comes across in the video too, is seek help when you need it. So when they were struggling and when they needed to do a turnaround, so they reached out and they got help from the best of the consulting that they could. And I have seen this very often also with the family, because our family and their family have participated in so many FBN events together across the world. The Family Business Network has a global conference every year, and we've been at several conferences together as the complete family. So that's where it's not just one family member, but all in the family go together, and you're listening and you're learning from other families who are going through the same issues that you are. So that's one of the things which is common in family business, that no matter where you are, which part of the world, what culture you're from, the issues we deal with are the same. It's just that you're dealing with different issues at different times in your kind of growth trajectory, and it's something which you've got to keep learning, and I see that very much in the family. And then, of course, the role of the family in the business, I think is also something which, Mayor spoke about how she and her husband got involved, and how at this stage, their children, their two children, are also involved. And again, reflecting on what I mentioned in the opening session, that each generation of the family will be involved in a different way. Okay, and that's what I think we're seeing also in the case of the family there. So those are just a few add-on comments which I thought I would just add to supplement what you heard.
Thank you, Farhad. That was excellent. Let's give Farhad a round of applause as well. Thank you, because you added a lot of color and depth to some of those things we might have missed. We have time for just a couple of quick questions because we have to break for lunch. Jay?
Thank you, Farhad. So, we spoke about this just before we began as well. So one of the, things that Thermax is known for is also their focus on mental health of their employees. Very early on, I remember early 2000s, they would, send their employees off to the 10-day retreats, meditating retreats. So, and we spoke about this briefly as well before the session. So, do you think, and you mentioned this as well in the early session, so the kind of the concern for the employee, so the mental well-being and health of the employees, does that come naturally to family businesses, or is that also because of all the crises that the family went through? There's so many challenges, so many tragedies. So how do you think of that question broadly, and also with specific reference to Thermax?
Yeah, I think you should probably ask Mayor that, but I would say, Anu, for example, I think from what I recall, was actually a social worker. And I think it was mentioned here. And so she has that background. So when she was part of HR as well, when she first got involved in the business, I think that element certainly came through in a lot of the things that she did for Thermax as well. So I think that would be probably one factor which was there. But more broadly and generally, is it something which is generally true of all family businesses? I would not say that. Okay, I wouldn't say that it's true for all, but I think value that you place on your employees is an important thing for most of our family businesses. You talk about stakeholders, and I think family businesses have traditionally looked beyond the shareholder as being the key stakeholder. It's much less so in family business. I think even earlier, there has been always a concern for the employees as being an important shareholder, important stakeholder, okay, to consider the interests for. And as a result, I think you will find many family businesses have been concerned with them, concerned to see that there is, that they're happy and that they are, in a good place. So I think that would possibly influence to some extent effort which is being made to have mental well-being. This came very much to light during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, there were many crises people went through. And in India particularly, because we had such a severe impact of the pandemic, with so many people losing their lives. I mean, in our own organization, we lost 3 people, who were direct employees. But the number of people who lost a parent, a brother, young people, We had one family where the husband passed away, the wife passed away, and their child passed away as well. And when you have that kind of impact, it affects people around you. And as a result, then you have a responsibility to deal with that. And I think it made a very big impact at least it made a big impact on us, and how we needed to respond, and how we needed to be seen not just as an employer at that stage, but as being there for families when they were really in time of need, So I think that is something which has varied across the world, Okay, but I would say many family businesses did step up at that time to actually take care of people when the need was there.
Thank you, Farhad. I think our lunch is beckoning, and we don't have time for more questions right now, but if anybody would like to walk up to Farhad and ask a follow-up or another question, please do so. So now we break for lunch, and we resume at 1 o'clock. I think Catherine, people should just go, line up. Okay, the lunch is ready for you to pick up. It's a quick, light meal, and we'll see you back at 1 o'clock. Thank you, Farhad. Thank you, Farhad.